triple kill, but Son of Finn, he'll deny the plant. He sees super kills. Oh my god! Son of Finn will find more!
Where's Miracle? He's trying to come upstairs, but Crafty will get the ace. He'll get the plant. He'll do it all.
Device misses shots. He's gonna have to go for the front.
Oh,
He pushes
Dylan!
on through. Dylan is better.
Round 2, and there's another as Tyrant is finished off, and they all line up for Bone.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you all find yourself doing well here as we kick off the final day of the first week here in SCS for Season 5. I'm Sticula. Joining me in the booth is my great friend, Jays Wills. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling great. I really am. This is going to be hopefully a fantastic final day of week 1, and I'm looking forward to closing it out with a bang. We've got Wichita Wolves versus Nemesis, our first game of the night, and then we'll be throwing it over. My spot will be taken by the lovely Chief for the second game of the night, Team Vale versus Project Neo. So we've got two fantastic matchups to close out this first week, and Sticula, we have seen a fantastic week of matches so far. I mean, comes to mind the Gatekeepers aerial game. That was a big one that I just love to see, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more stuff tonight. But for those of you who are not entirely familiar with our format, let me give you a quick breakdown. As you can see by this beautiful graphic in front of us, we are currently on day 3 of week 1 of the group stage. Each series consists of 2 maps, and those points will be allocated as a result. For example, if you walk away with a decisive victory, one that occurs in regulation, 3 points goes to your team. But if you squeak out a win in overtime, only 2 points are allocated to your team, and your opponent will walk away with 1. That's why you can see a team out there just after 1 week with 5 points. That would be a win on 1 map and an overtime win on the second. And again, this is a round robin group stage, and eventually when we head into our playoffs, that is all best of 3, winner take all double elimination playoff bracket.
And because of the changes that we have coming in for Season 5, it's not so much of a drawn-out regular season like you might have seen in days gone by. 5 weeks of play with a total of 30 points, I believe, available. Just did some quick math there. If you manage to get a perfect win on each and every play day, given the level of competition here in SCS, I don't really think that's all too possible. So far, we have Honor as the one team managing to secure 6 points. That could very well happen today with the 2 series that we've got on offer. Really looking forward to how the playoffs picture will shake out as we move our way through the regular season. And in speaking a little bit more about these 2 teams, let's go ahead and roll things over to the rosters so we can figure out who will be joining us on the playing field tonight. In terms of both of these teams, I have to say, I think they're fairly even. A lot of people during the qualifiers, I believe, kind of wrote off Nemesis, but seeing their performance during Qual 2 in one of the matches that I got to cast, they really impressed me, though they haven't had the most high level of consistency. Working here in week 1, that's what they're trying to build on top of, versus the new and improved Wichita Wolves roster that has had a few changes of their own, notably bringing in Shu, who played formerly on the Toyota Camry roster that you might have seen in RSA Season 2, and Faded himself, who was actually on the old interpretation of Wichita.
Yeah, these 2 teams, they don't have too much of a personal history with each other. They did actually play each other in the closed qualifiers, and in which case Wichita Wolves took a 7-2 victory on Cafe. And while I'm not certain that that's going to be the storyline tonight, I think Nemesis do find themselves a little bit of the underdogs here. Of course, by no stretch of the imagination are they hugely the underdogs, but having lost that match in the closed quals, and of these 2 teams, Nemesis is that team with a little bit more of a rocky history. I mean, just thinking of the performance in Upsurge recently, they have not been a team that has really been up with those best teams out there. They have not been at the top of their game, and so I think coming into this first play day, they need to be coming out strong and send a message to everyone else here in this league that they deserve this place to be here. We can roll up with our caster predictions, and honestly, we've got pretty mixed results here. a fair number of Wichita Wolves predictions. That is definitely my own as well. Looks like you threw a Nemesis one in there, though, Stick.
Yeah, you mentioned the Rocky history. I think looking at these predictions, maybe after that game they played an upsurge, I might have cast my vote a little bit differently, but I'm hoping that they come into this SCS. Obviously, you can't afford to just kind of play willy-nilly and lose out on that opportunity to take a win and a lot of momentum in week number 1. For my personal hope, I'm watching Nemesis to see if they've made some of these key improvements. They seem to be a pretty good baseline team. I would say they've got previous Challenger League experience versus Wichita Wolves, who are a little bit more ground inside of T3 with players like Morocco and TPA, who participated in CCS Season 5, so take that as you will. I think Wichita, they've got the gunners, they've got the playmakers, and there's a little bit more chemistry that's built up within their ranks, but Nemesis could certainly come out with a unexpected win today.
Well, I suppose only time will tell. The good thing is we know exactly where we're going to be ending up. Oregon, that's going to be Nemesis pick, and Villa, that is going to be the choice of Wichita Wolves. So nothing too crazy in terms of these maps. We are pretty familiar with the way these two play out, and I think, honestly, the perfect battleground to start things off for these two teams. Both, like we said, have had, mixed histories. Wichita Wolves, they're working on shaping up this new roster, and I think we could be really in for a good show. We're not going to have to wait too much longer, though. We got our match coming up in a moment. I mean, we just saw our community predictions. It was largely in favor of Wichita Wolves. That was a 70-30 difference there in terms of the overall percentage, and there were a couple of tie predictions as well. So this could really go either way, I do think. But like I said earlier, Nemesis, they've got to really kick things off strong, and doing so on Oregon on their own map pick, I think that could really be the place to begin.
Yeah, I don't think Nemesis would really be in a good way were they to start off and have this be immediately Wichita's pick, because that's just, nobody likes to have your opponent's map pick come up first. That's all the hard work coming up right at the start, and when you finally get over to your map pick where you've got everything prepared on, you might not be at that highest level of mental reservation jumping into the series. We're about a single minute out from the game. Speaking of Oregon, I'm happy to see Nemesis go here. I've had a few VODs of them on this map in the past. I think it should serve as a good level of foundation for them to build off of, but you look back in that qualifier best of 1, that's a little bit of VOD that Wichita Wolves could review.
Right, I mean, you look at Cafe as well, the map that these two teams did play on, and Wichita Wolves took a decisive 7-2 victory, and that was not long ago. That was just 2 weeks ago. So definitely fresh in the mind of both of these teams, and you could definitely take a lot of lessons from there. The question is, which team really put in the work to learn more from that experience, right? Wichita Wolves, they could simply learn from that and go, hey, let's do the same thing. Let's work with it again. Let's take it to Oregon, a map that can also be quite frag heavy at times. Let's do things there. But on the same token, Nemesis, they can bring it back. They can say, you know what? This is how Wichita Wolves beat us very decisively. How can we adjust it? And they can use these 2 weeks to make those adjustments and work not only on their Cafe, but on their overall strategy like on Oregon, and something that I think would be great to see starting off, because I really do think that this first map, if it goes in Wichita Wolves' favor, especially strongly, I don't know if Nemesis are going to be able to pull out Villa. I really want to see Nemesis come out of the gate really strong.
It's a lot of work to put yourself through. We'll jump into Oregon. Operator vetoes. I feel like Oregon is a fairly easy map to predict, but JZ, what would you have to put your money on?
I'm not going to say Thatcher because that's just too free. I think something like, the ranged hard breachers are always pretty common. Ace is one of those that is generally taken off the board on Oregon. You don't often see the Maverick bans, but again, something that can be brought out. The first ban being Thatcher, not surprised whatsoever. On the defensive side of things, we'd like to see the Mira ban because that really doesn't allow defensive teams to get, even more utility and more power than they already have on this map. So interested to see how that is going to work out. We do have the Nomad ban though. That's another not too uncommon. We'd often see Jackal Nomad bans in this kind of situation. You really don't want to have to deal with that roam denial that the Nomad brings to the table and that those air jabs bring as well.
Seeing that we have the Nomad ban, I'm not surprised that Wichita are taking this off the board. And when you have things like Nomad, things like Jackal being eliminated, I think any player's first thought is they want to play aggressive, and they're looking for opportunities to come up with flanks and make these hero plays. I don't know if that's totally the whole story with Nomad, because I feel like there is sort of a smart man's route to go with when you're having the Nomad vetoed, and you kind of play a little bit more flexible. You can't be so easily constricted, especially on Oregon, where we see more of the intermediate and advanced level strategies a lot of times are starting to incorporate things like roams. When you're looking at the basement, you can't allow the attackers to immediately take up a posture outside of the objective. We'll have basement come up, and that question answered in round number 1, where Wichita Wolves are bringing the Twitch and Jackal.
Yeah, the Jackal being brought, just pure and simple, the replacement for the Nomad. You want to assist that roam clear. You want to get it done as soon as possible. But in fact, Shu is going to switch off the Jackal and pull out the IQ instead. So seeing that bit of utility brought, again, not much surprise there either, especially on the top floor bomb site. The IQ can be very helpful with dealing with any of those hard breach denial on the closet and the attic walls, but that is not where we're going to begin. We're going to begin in laundry and supply room, the site that Nemesis would like to defend first. They are bringing the Goyo. Bales will be bringing those Vulcan shields into play. The one thing you don't have, though, is those Wamai magnets, because Wamai was banned out. That does mean you're going to have to rely on the Jaeger. You're going to have to rely on Red in this case to allow those really just hard stuck Vulcan shield positions to be utilized properly. It's definitely the utility consumption meta of old, but a meta that's not quite going to be able to be in its full effect just because the Wamai is not in play. I'm wondering if we're going to see an actual J bunker extension here. We don't see the shield nor the ADS is there. There is a rotate hole, but this may be something that maybe Nemesis are going to play a bit softer. Okay, no. Finally, we are going to see Bales make that one happen. Twizzler has identified that. The Twitch, bringing that drone on in there. But already it seems that Wichita Wolves, they're possibly going to work a standard construction-sided take, already working their way in from this J bunker side.
There's the soft breach utility. No real ADSs being present over here inside a blue bunker, and I don't know if that's totally going to help the defense. Already, one Vulcan has been capitulated, but a smoke is tossed out right on through the canister. TPA rips off the head of Joe. A fiery start here in round number 1. Morocco seizes control of the backstage stairwell, noticing the Malusi hiding below with assistance of one of her Banshees. So far, Wichita pretty dominant in terms of this control. They've relegated Nemesis back onto the site. They've taken out the first line of the defense, and for your smoke to be the opening death, that serves as quite the ominous omen.
Definitely the good start, but looking to continue this pressure. Working their way in from this pillar side, you've got TPA finally making an entry into J bunker here, now pressuring up into E-box. You actually still have 2 Nemesis defenders playing pretty tight in pillar. TPA is aware of that and looks to cut that off, but no, instead, it's Boji who gets that shot and cuts down the Ash. Not before Bales could be felled, however. Twizzler claiming that kill for their own, and now crossing that 90-second mark. The Wolves looking to continue to just push on in from this pillar side. They now have control of pillars, that is, and they force Box to no longer contest that actively, forcing the Valkyrie back into freezer and to more of a passive position. The Selma charges now going down on that wall should enable Wichita Wolves to even force Red and Boji back even further. But look at this. The Malusi still holding close in J bunker. The drone probably went out though, and now Shu, all he has to do is swing this corner and go for the pre-fire. Instead, it's going to be a waiting game. Both players sitting absolutely still, just waiting for the moment to strike.
One issue that could potentially crop up is the fact that Box with the Nitro Cell is not in a great position to deny the plant. He'll cross in through the hallway, but gun down, their pillar control is lost. However, it's only Red, as Wichita Wolves have played excellently in the frag chasing game. Swapping between the sites, it's Red who gets caught off in the crossfire. Wichita with a good first attack. The way that they took that basement site control left no prisoners.
I really like what we saw there, Sticula. It was a flurry of action, a good push on in with a lot of utility utilized in order to take pillars control. But from there, and the situation we saw play out in J bunker, I think emulated this perfectly. Everything kind of stalled out for just a moment. Everyone on the side of Wichita Wolves, they said, wait a second, let's pause, let's get some intel, and let's prep for the execute. That's why Shu didn't need feel the need to force the swing onto Boji in that J bunker position. There was no aggressiveness there. It was simply a waiting game for that plant to go down, because as any smart attacking team knows, and as the Wichita Wolves just showed us there, is they knew the moment they teased that diffuser, the moment they went for that plant, the defenders would have to spring up and get into action, right? And that's exactly what Shu took advantage of. The moment that the plant was heard, Boji had to hop on up. At that point, Shu knew exactly what they were dealing with, went for the swing, shut down the Melusi, and, well, the rest is history. Some good post-plant coverage, not allowing Red to bring that one back. A strong first round from the Wichita Wolves.
So now we shift course to your very traditional top floor dorms hold with a bit of maybe an extension going below. I see that reinforcement drop, and I think that could mean either two things. Excuse me, maybe just preventing the vertical angle, not totally intending to actually have this be an element of their downstairs hold. Maybe this could be the truth, but I think this looks like more of kind of your standard split take. Not so much of a focus on going for that vertical control down inside dining, mostly just opting to try and get open the main wall here. Electroclaw in the floor there. I don't know if Twizzler quite spotted it, but he's not able to get it with his drone as it's shot out by the keen eye of Bales. Rotate to cover the big window from Morocco. Wichita Wolves again trying to close in and smother all defenders on the site. They're going to have the Ash go below, and this could work out for the Ash if she's able to get the Electroclaw, but Bales knows this. He's aware of the process in the game that's about to go on, and so he's got the other Electroclaw waiting in his pocket so that as soon as he hears the breaching round detonate, he can instantly swap around and toss that one down. It's exactly how it goes. Is Faded still on the drone. He will not be able to get it in time, but it's so curious the way that they don't opt to electrify the other side of the wall, instead just the west side?
Yeah, it's curious. I think doesn't seem to matter for the side of Wichita Wolves. They've got the drone in position, the Twitch drone being brought out from Twizzler, and that is going to deal with the second of those elusive Electroclaws. But a skirmish is happening on this bottom floor right now. You've got one player in split right now, pushing out of Meeting Hall, and TPA has been forced to deal with it. That was Boji, but now the Melusi rotating around, possibly back onto site. One thing you got to be careful of, however, is Morocco holding that cross, just holding the rotation now that they know there's at least one player off site. There are in fact two, with Red playing downstairs in security just a moment ago. But for now, the Wichita Wolves, they're simply holding these crosses and they're getting ready to actually go for an execute here. They've got closet on open. They've got a player on big window. They're applying pressure from all sides. The one thing that is missing though is an attic presence. They're allowing Box to hold attic down, it looks like, for the remainder of this round here. And if they're not careful, that could seriously be a thorn in their side, because Box can deny that default plant, not to mention has a C4 in their pocket.
There goes one more piece of the utility as Wichita Wolves seem to be kind of stalling out. A Nitro will detonate, steals out the life of TPA, but Morocco finds himself a 1-for-1 trade. Your Melusi down, the IQ loses out. The G8 simply can't triumph against the machine pistol. Box tries to fend off the Twitch, but out of control, finally under the auspices of Wichita. And a flurry of bullets. Here comes Red. He walks right through the rotate and kills that execute before Wichita could even hope to get the diffuser down. Good early progress, but it seemed like they just were not able to get that solid mid-round foothold.
Well, particularly, these last two rounds actually played out quite similarly. I mean, if you look at, the overall pace of the round, it was once again a flurry of action with Wichita really trying to force their way in, get that utility dealt with, and open up that wall, right? But then They did the same thing we saw them do in round number one. They slowed it down. They played it a bit more passively. They waited for any opportunities before eventually going for the pounce. And this time, it didn't work out because there were simply no opportunities for Wichita to claim any kills in that round. I mean, that is what's so powerful about just having 5 defenders up in those last few seconds, because as the attackers force their way on in, they just haven't cleared out those necessary elements that you generally need to do, especially on that dorm side attack. It is something that can seriously bite you in the back if you're not going to go for early attic control as an attacking team. That's what we just saw there from Wichita Wolves. They slowed down and they waited for something to happen, but because they hadn't been pressuring Attic at those early moments in the round, Box was allowed to just hold down that position. Nobody had to worry about closing off the kids to Attic rotate. They could simply vibe and kids vibe and Attic and wait for Wichita to walk on in. That's exactly what Nemesis did, and they did it perfectly. They waited back on their feet for Wichita to walk straight on into their open arms, and they certainly delivered those final kills.
So I'm thinking about how this next round is going to go down in terms of what Nemesis rotates for their setup. I think there's obviously the problem here of they have more bulletproof utility than ADSs really to cover that, and so you kind of have to pick and choose. You know, if you're going to station more utility over here on the bunker side, you leave yourself vulnerable if, let's say, Wichita get lucky and they manage to clear out all of this utility, then the ADSs don't really matter. And once you fall back to the actual objective itself, that could become much more of a menacing issue. Again, we'll have Morocco establish his backstairs presence as the rest of his team makes progress to get bunker control. Nemesis are trying to play this in sort of a fallback style, and I like the way that the Malusi had held inside of elbow, never giving it up entirely to Wichita. Unfortunately, there was just a few chance engagements that Wichita used to get the next step up, the final rung on the ladder to complete their offensive hold. Boji stalling the progress so far, as Wichita have not managed to get that critical smoke pick that we had go down in round number 1, with Joe kind of just getting caught out in the midst of things. TPA seems to have attempted to clear the shield. It is successful, and the Goyo doubles back, but because of the way that this reinforcement works, TPA can lock it down, preventing anyone from getting that closed.
Well, Red is playing quite actively here in E-Box, goes for one and actually gets the kill. Quickly traded by Faded as a bit over-aggressive, I guess. After Red found that first kill, he wanted more. Twizzler is going to shut down another, finally removing Boji from play, who was already in the down but not out state. And that's going to put Nemesis on the back foot here. Once again, a 3v4 is what they're staring down, and they've all been forced off the site, off these perfect places where you can actually contest an eventual plant. Joe still has 3 toxic canisters, so those can definitely be utilized here. But the C4 from Box, that will not be a factor, as Morocco will make that certain. Bales will be the only C4, the only piece of explosive plant denial that Nemesis now has. Morocco looking to shut him down as well on the swing through the long haul. A couple of shots will be traded, and Bales will be cut down about 10 HP, but neither of these low health players will quite lose this one out just yet. 30 seconds now remain, and Wichita Wolves looking to do their very same execute. Force these defenders to move and just get this plant down.
There goes Bales, and that's critical now. No nitro to stop the plant, and here's a simple numbers game for attackers to complete, and Morocco, he will get Bales. Twizzler shots on target to 6 that round on through. Another kind of stalling out one towards the end. It was looking a little bit rocky, but Wichita, they played it cool, they played it calm, and they got it done, never leaving open an opportunity. And the nitros there, I love the way that they play it so cautiously when they know there's extra explosive utility left unaccounted for. The Cade goes down, your freezer presence is lost, and then all of a sudden, it's just a game of getting on the side and figuring out where those final 2 defenders are stationed.
Pretty default stuff from Wichita Wolves. They did their exact same attack as last time, and it worked with the exact same success. Of course, they lost one player from the pretty bold play of Red, contesting close onto the soft destruction on the E-Box wall, facing the bunker side, but that aggression, it only found 1 kill before Red was eventually taken down as well. So, again, back and forth early engagements, a slowdown of the pace. Wichita, they sat back, they gained intel, they prepared for their execute, made it happen, and again, an open and shut round for them. So impressive stuff we're seeing from Wichita Wolves. They clearly have this sort of style down that they want to utilize round after round. And while that can be good to get into a rhythm, that also gives Nemesis the opportunity to capitalize on that as well, especially going here to this tertiary bomb site. This is meeting in kitchen. Nemesis, they can capitalize by putting a lot of early pressure on this top floor. If you can stall out that early push from Wichita and really force that middle round game that they've been pulling out to come a bit later, to not have enough time for Wichita Wolves to gather themselves to actually make this execute, then I think Nemesis could put themselves in a pretty strong position. That's why we're seeing quite a bit of utility allocated to this top floor, and that's why we're seeing TPA already make some headway into this extension as well. Already opening up this closet wall, looking to pressure on in, clear out some utility and some hot drones at her feet. The Ash will start to push on through. Box and Red, the first players to deal with.
Valcam, they're up in the lamp. They'll have an idea of what defender presence lies here inside of the games room, and Boji lurks below. Nitro in pocket. He could toss this up here, especially with that Valcam, just a deadly combo in terms of the intel, and TPA is right in position. Watch Boji and his counter there to see if he does whip it out, but I don't know if they've totally communicated this just yet. There it goes, it's up, but it doesn't kill him. Only doing about 65 damage. The Ash still up in the fight, and one key piece of utility gone that might have served them help later in the post plant. No worry though, still 3 nitros left on the board for Nemesis, as it looks like we might have a derelict top floor.
Yeah, Faded and Shu, they have got this crossfire established, and little do they know they've got this completely cleared on out. You do have Joe, who's playing with the M590 straight below the double window, so a jump in here would be a very dangerous endeavor. A C4 could be huge as well, but the double jump in is there, and Joe just not quite hanging up attention to capitalize. That C4 could be big, just narrowly missing Shu, and Morocco's gonna utilize that opportunity to cut down Bales. Nemesis again, it's a 4v5. You had Bales trying to play in meeting room itself, and an endeavor that is, well, very unlikely to succeed. Now with the vertical play coming on out, Wichita soon to identify that this meeting hall is largely already cleared on out, and Faded could possibly utilize those Selma charges to open up this meeting wall. No, he's actually utilized those Selma charges already. I'm not entirely sure where, but regardless, that's a piece of utility missing from this attack, one that I think Boji could capitalize on as well. There's a flanker working their way below the armory main staircase. That's the Malusi. And you've got Joe, who's in the middle of the white stairs and is going to cut down one. That's Shu, who says goodbye in this round. The plant is going to hit the floor at this moment, but Twizzler is going to get one. Here comes the flank, finally paying off for Boji. He's going to get one kill, and now another one comes out for Box as Morocco just drops into the middle of kitchen. TPA is caught between a rock and a hard place here. A crossfire established, but it does not matter. Finds one kill, but eventually hit into the down but not outstate, and Faded misses a headshot onto Boji. The final kill delivered, and Nemesis will clean up the round.
You gotta put some emphasis there on the flank of the Malusi. No coverage. The Nomad Band certainly did not help in that situation, and, well, working your way up there. Again, the same thing. Slow, conservative progress from Wichita, which is not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, they were able to get the opening duel as well, which, you know, for the amount of time, 60 seconds that was left with vertical control of the objective, I feel like that's a good place to be in. That makes sense mathematically, but they just did not account for the flank coming through that completely took that one off the rails. Eventually, Nemesis finding themselves in the man disadvantage, and even though the Ash, hiding there near sandbags, tried her best and was able to fell the one player who came in through the rotate. There was simply too many angles to check and not enough bullets to gun down all of those defenders. Nemesis will keep it equal here in the game of round economics. Wichita already meeting their margin with rounds 5 and 6. If they can clean up a couple of these attacks, they are going to be sitting pretty going over to the second half.
Well, a couple of things to talk about here. First of all, what Nemesis did really well in that round, I think it really was about taking advantage of the style that they've noticed from Wichita Wolves. They put those roamers in really late flanking positions because they knew that Wichita would become tunnel visioned on that execute once that, you know, passive middle round phase had passed them by. Nemesis perfectly capitalized. You had two flankers, Boji on the main stairs, Joe on that flank on top of white stairs, to the vertical players, and chipping away at the top floor extension that the attackers had then technically established was perfect. They could not really hold that down any longer, and that's why Nemesis were able to just lock down the site and get a perfect retake from off of the bomb site. But what troubling there was for Wichita Wolves, you had Morocco drop down in kitchen rather than hold vertical and try to just stay upstairs for as long as possible. On a site that vertical play matters just so much, both of the Wichita Wolves post-plant attackers who remained were actually in meeting hall. Both of them. Stuck in corners where Nemesis could just swing them from 2 angles and shut them down. That is what Wichita Wolves struggled with there, their post-plant positioning. Many players found themselves on that first floor, and with meeting hall, a site that just vertical play is everything, I think that is where a little bit of the misstep went, and Nemesis did a great job of just getting those crossfires and switching things around.
Phenomenal shot there from Bales to eliminate the Twitch, but as he moves on through, he gets caught by the rappel. TPA securing a swift trade. The Twitch for the Cade. I think that was pretty fair to say. You lose out on a Nitro Cell, but the F2 is now gone. Wichita aren't quite lacking in the firepower department, though, having many powerful high DPS rifles. BO2 gonna try to contest this, but it's TPA who finds Red swinging. The Zofia will go down. Nemesis still managed to skirmish their way back into an even man count, but here goes Shu. Joe's gone, your smoke is lost, and Nemesis, not a whole lot of manpower to cover the entirety of what is a very large objective. The Selma game still being played here, no Twitch to clear that Electro Claw, and so TPA could be sent on through to maybe try to just face check it, but it's in such a high and tight angle that he's not going to have a whole lot of luck, and this looks like Wichita having to just force their way in through that singular door. Shu hoping to provide some coverage. It looks like he'll rotate to the kid's window rappel, trying to bisect the objective and maybe cut off the player holding it wide. He'll spot BO2. So much damage done. The Nitro sent out, but it's a failed attempt from Box, accomplishing nothing. Shu still a constant factor in the mind of the Valkyrie here, but TPA charging through loses out to the low HP Malusi. A 2 versus 2 with 30 seconds to make up their mind. Shu goes down. Faded put now into the clutch against 2 defenders. He'll try to swing the Malusi first. We already know she's on low HP, but Box, he's just not giving away this fight. He's still hiding off and preserving the life of his teammate. Nemesis playing this perfectly. The ace will go for the swing. The Valkyrie is spotted, but he goes on ADS at just the wrong moment. Nemesis with their 3rd round.
Now that one was tricky. That one was tricky for Wichita Wolves, and Nemesis again, they just perfectly capitalized. I mean, a player in attic and a player stuck on white stairs, a player that should have been cut off by the play from Shu on the rappel. But what TPA did to bring Nemesis back in that round was charge straight on into dorms rather than just go for the plant coverage and allow Faded to actually get the diffuser down. By charging on through and allowing BO2 to get the kill, Shu, who was being pressured from Box, the Valkyrie in attic, could not cover that. There was no way for the coverage to actually be there because the Ashes was not in the line of sight of the IQ just yet. BO2 did a great job of capitalizing that, mind you, but that was just a big mistake there coming out from WW. And as a result, those last 2 Nemesis defenders who had, all the patience in the world to just sit back and allow Wichita to push on in, I mean, a great job, just a stellar job from those last 2 defenders in that clutch situation. A 3v2, of course, that can turn, the tides can turn so quickly from a 3v2 into a 2v1 like we just saw, because Wichita Wolves just did not quite literally play as a pack and group up when those 3 attackers remained and play that advantage. They took a couple of individual gunfights, and that's what cost them, simply.
Well, let's go down to the basement and try to dissect what Nemesis can change to finally wrap their head around a win on this site. It seems like a lot of the time we're coming down to the final seconds. And I think Nemesis have made some good changes in the identity of their team in the pivots through this round, especially the meeting one that you talked about where they played a little bit more passively. They waited until the very end to start challenging for those gunfights because they recognize the difficult gambit of the manpower issue. If you're swinging early, that gives Wichita just so much more of a free reign to push up, knowing that they have less defenders to worry about. And a team that's in a man disadvantage is not necessarily going to play super aggressive, because if you die, your team is going to be looking down on you from changing what is a manageable 4 versus 5 to maybe not the best situation in a 3-man up scenario. Wichita Wolves have the same composition as they've been running time after time. will have a Electro Claw placed on the shield, which is one key difference. Your Ashe is going to have a struggle if she wants to try and clear this, and I think this is a smart play to go for. They recognize there's not enough utility, but there's no Thatcher on the board to clear this, and Twizzler's Twitch drones don't seem to quite be in position. That won't be a factor. Morocco rounds the corner. Those lifeline grenades not so susceptible to the Electro Claw.
Yeah, that's going to pop the Vulcan shield, and despite an opportunity to get this reinforcement off, Nemesis aren't going to capitalize. They still have time, honestly, because Wichita Wolves have not identified that this position has been cleared on out. Instead, it's simply going to be holding the rotate. That's going to be Box's job in the freezer there. And of course, you've got Joe and Bales, who again, there's another deployable shield in play. So really, they just could be baiting Wichita Wolves to actually get aggressive on this rotation. And that actually could be the play here. But Shu is doing the pretty same strategy we saw from the IQ last time, not going for a swing early. It's Twizzler who goes for one instead, trying to face check the Electro Claw, but instead face checking their way into about 95 HP worth of damage. TPA, it's their turn to push on through, but at this time it's a Toxic Babe to force him on out. Shu is now going to contest on that J Bunker rotate and actually gets one. Bales goes for the aggressive play, but Shu is there to capitalize. That's a double kill. And already Nemesis, the advantage and the time that had been so much in their favor is simply gone. Red is going to get one, but TPA is in the middle of the bomb site and Boji has no idea. The swing is there. Box gets one in response, looks for the second, but Faded denies it. That's going to be a 1v3 for Red. Again, the last player alive to clutch this one up. 15 seconds to go, but with the plant down, it's now all up to Red. He's not going to be looking the right way with the player on that pony wall. Now he's got to go for the crazy swing. The crazy aggression into J Bunker. You've got Twizzler on the prone angle, who is going to seal it off for the Wichita Wolves. A flawless 3-round basement attack, but they couldn't win out an attack elsewhere. A 3-3 so far on Oregon.
You hate to see Nemesis lose that round, even when I think they played it much better than their previous two defenses. They were able to stall the plant, and it looked like Wichita were a little bit more jittery there in the way that they went about the attack, constantly being fought off by nitro cells, by hailstorms of bullets and gas canisters, all the same. And with so many members low HP, and Wichita at one point in that round actually holding the advantage, it looked like that might have been one that you were almost able to swing. I don't fault Red to be that final player in the 3 versus 1. Swinging the angle, there's so much pressure, so many, comms, everything, all that weight stacking up on your shoulders that who's going to check the prone angle? That's like the last afterthought of going for that push, and there could have been an attacker at any corner. Nemesis, I would have liked to see more basement defenses. I hope that if this does go to overtime, we'll get to see that in the final evolution of it. Maybe a win eventually for their defensive stratagem, but we won't have that question answered, as now they pick up the difficult task of playing offense on Oregon. Wichita played very well in a lot of those aim battle scenarios, fighting off members of Nemesis, and I think Wichita had the driving force in a lot of those fights where it was them playing smart, waiting for members of Nemesis to over-aggress. And unfortunately, Nemesis were just too late to respond to that difference in the team composition and the way that they played it.
Well, speaking of team composition, we've got the Aruni coming out from Morocco. Now, for all of you who are not familiar, we have actually elected to allow both Aruni and Tachanka into the allowed operator lineup for the group stage, assuming that they're going to be released for play in all of competitive Siege in this season. We didn't want our teams to, switch up the meta mid-season or have to do anything crazy, so we pulled our players, and overwhelming support was to introduce both of these operators straight on into the pool, and Morocco is going to be taking up that task right now. And I'm really curious to see how this is going to play out, because you've got the Goyo as well, you've got the Malusi, and you've got those ADSs. You've got so much of this utility consumption simulator style of old, but another style that I think we've seen a lot on this first half and that we are seeing again. These attacking teams, they've really been forced to play this slow. They've had so much utility to clear out, so many things to actually get underway. The first of those on the side of Nemesis here is dealing with this, I'd call it an actual extension, not just a roam into kitchen security and the top of these freezer stairs. You've got Shu playing pretty firmly in kitchen, supported by one of those Surya gates on that kitchen to dining door. And which Nemesis, they're forced to really work around this, and with support from the vertical from Morocco here, it's going to be easier said than done to actually get Shu dealt with.
The Aruni holding such a tight angle, and now it's not a whole lot of options for Melusi to try and support her teammate. She's still waiting at those freezer stairs, as you talked about, but the Jaeger is almost all on his lonesome. The drone is spotted, TPA missing crucial shots as the Zofia will switch sides back and forth on the threshold, and TPA trapped somewhat here inside security. Boji moves forward. The Banshee on top, white cleared, but moving up, he'll spot the Goyo. Twizzler caught out of position, but the Goyo still manages to stay alive. However, here comes the Melusi, a valiant flank to take back control of white stairs. The ask for another one, TPA, he keeps coming. A 4 versus 2, now it's Joe. He's got to attempt the hero play. Jumping in, he's eliminated by the Aruni, and only Bales left. Stuck inside attic, he'll open the window with the hammer and drop down below through the hatch. But there's not much that the sledge can do with no remaining frag grenade utility. This would have to be a huge clutch for him to make happen.
Well, this is kind of what happens when you throw a new operator into the mix. Unexpected things, honestly. Nemesis just weren't sure how to make that one happen, and that's forced Bales to really make the insane play. He found one kill, actually downs TPA. That might have been some team damage there, but Faded will clean it on up, and Wichita Wolves will take their first defensive round. But like I was saying, that kitchen extension, it seemed to just completely bamboozle Nemesis there. I mean, they stared at it for a minute and a half and didn't really do much to deal with it. You mean the pressure from below, from the freezer stairs player, the pressure from above, from Morocco playing vertical, all of those components just made Nemesis's clear just so annoying to get underway, and they definitely felt the full brunt of that annoyance. Instead of making the right decision, there were really two options for them, right? They could have either fully committed to that clear, said, okay, guys, let's do a full rotation. Let's just send this guy out of kitchen, deal with the freezer player, deal with this utility. That could have happened, and that could have been successful. Their second option would have been ignore it completely, go full on-site pressure, but neither of those things happened. They couldn't quite decide how they wanted to execute that, and as a result, the time got the better of them. They were forced to take engagements that they just had no business taking, and as a result, they lost the round. And Joe, the IGL of this team, it generally comes down to them to make that decision. Your IGL needs to say firmly which plan you want to go with, right? Do you want to go with a split take, a full roam clear, a full site pressure? Something has to be decided, especially in those mid-round moments. As our good friend Chief likes to say, right? IGL, in-game leader, it's in-game for a reason. It's not just pre-round, it's not just stratting. It comes down to making those decisions on the fly and making sure your team can group up around one central figure.
And I think that's a big dichotomy that we'll see erupt in this round, with Wichita Wolves now swapping over and finding themselves on the opposite end of that blue bunker utility ADS question, where Nemesis are going to have to coordinate and work together to try and eliminate that. No construction pressure really at all so far from what I've noticed. This looks like more of maybe a main and freezer take. I'm not sure if I totally am on the same side of things as far as I would agree with the strategy, but if Nemesis can commit to this and can find themselves with a strong execute, I think it could very likely work, because I don't know if Wichita would be in full expectation of Nemesis to go for what I would call the more unusual of the two attack plans. Usually you'll have pretty much what Wichita did on all of their attacks. Just go for bunker control, clear out elbow, get pillar, and then force your way into storage. This could be something a little bit different, where Nemesis focus on establishing map control, keeping the defenders in their positions, and then eventually taking control from freezer. I would be curious to see how that would work out. There's still obviously a roamer for Wichita that's going to add to the time delay in a minute and 30 seconds. That's not a huge margin. The Zofia dodging back and forth. Good reaction there to eliminate the Melusi. One roamer eliminated. The rest of Wichita back to the bounds of the site.
Yeah, the retreat back on through, and oh, a nice C4 there from Twizzler. That's gonna shut down Box and actually allow Twizzler to hold down Freezer for a little bit longer. Yeah, Nemesis have fully rotated away from that position. They don't want to deal with the Goyo there. They're just gonna go for what looks like this Pillars and E-Box push. You've got Joe now rotating around to this construction side and this bunker side as well, to really make it quite clear that Nemesis are going for this north side execute. Wichita are still in a position to stall this one out. They've got ample players on the site. They haven't fully been forced to back off yet because this pressure has been so late, right? Nemesis, they couldn't quite decide where they were going to attack from, but it doesn't seem that it mattered early on. Boji is already up and taking Pillar's control and now can cut off any rotation from this long haul. You've got Morocco as well looking towards the bunker, trying to find a short little angle here. The Toxic Babes doing their best to delay this push, but Joe goes for the swing and the pre-fire connects with its target. Morocco says goodnight in this round. Red trying to apply some pressure from this elbow side, and the plant is going to go down in the meantime. That toxic canister somehow not connecting, and Bales will cut down Faded as he just sprinted on in, hoping to deny that plant. Boji going to get a double kill, and Red going to seal it off for Nemesis, and they'll take round number 8, attacking the basement bomb site in style this time.
I was starting to prepare my diatribe for why rotating late in the round can sometimes be an issue, but that smoke canister, it just didn't do anything. It didn't stop the plan, even though from our point of view, it looked like the Habana was totally engulfed by it. And that's one of those moments for Wichita where you kind of just hope that, you know, maybe it works better next time. And I would honestly be slamming my desk were that to be happen, because you put so much weight on the denial of the plant. As the smoke calls out to your team, I've got it. I'm denying it. You don't need to overswing. Nemesis in that position, the one big advantage that they had was an equal man count with time and leverage because of that plant going down. And it forced, again, this time, Wichita into the reactionary position that we called out about Nemesis on some of their basement defenses. A round on the board puts them at even, and that could be a huge boost of momentum for a round that I'm not sure if Nemesis had a total model to win.
Yeah, it was interesting the way they approached that. Normally, you know, teams, they either go for one of two executes. You have your full pillar-sided push, you get E-Box hatch open, you push into bunker, you take elbow control, etc., etc. The same thing goes, but you work your way in from the south side instead. You go for your laundry push, and you pressure from both the main stairs and from the freezer side, and you establish your crossfire onto laundry, and you execute there accordingly. That's a very tough execute to actually do well, because one or two players can shut down that entire push, and that is, I think, why generally you do see teams go for that pillar's take. Nemesis, they started off probably thinking they wanted to do something on that freezer side, but sending one player down, and well, that player was immediately sent to their grave by a C4. I think Nemesis did a really good job of changing it up on the fly. The very same thing we mentioned that they struggled with in round number 7. It came right back in round number 8, and they dealt with it accordingly. The one thing they haven't dealt with, that's a little bit of this roam. You've got both TPA and Shu playing in meeting and TPA playing above in attic, looking to contest any early pressure being put. Twizzler just walks up the stairs. Wow. He'll walk up the stairs and he'll get 2 kills. That's massive for Wichita Wolves.
Moment of silence for the 2 members of Nemesis who just got styled on by Goyo, playing so comfortably, just moving up the stairs without a care in the world. Joe has so much pressure put on his shoulders now to make this reaction happen. Ox finds Morocco, and looks like maybe this roam is starting to retreat just a little bit as Wichita give up the various areas of their control. The time waste here is huge. The hatch, not electrified. The X-Kairos begin the process of opening it, but now Nemesis have to react and push down in the very same response that they did previously. TPA, he's not keen to give this roam up just yet, still creeping up the main stairs, causing a further annoyance to Nemesis, who are constantly having to keep this on their mind while trying to put full focus, stacking up all of their available resources to attack the objective in a man disadvantage. To have TPA on top of that, in addition, That might be too much.
Well, with the Toxic Babes getting thrown on out, the time waste factor starting to dwindle as this utility is used, and as Joe actually finds themselves in the middle of Pillar right now. So pretty good progress here, but look at this, you still have TPA on the roam. Faded is gonna get another, and now it all comes down to Joe, who Twizzler will silence when he goes for the sprint into the middle of the bomb site. A great job there for Wichita Wolves to get another one. Twizzler, the big impact player of that round. Just the confidence to walk up tower stairs, get 2 kills, and Nemesis simply could never recover from that situation. When we saw the Vigil on the roam, when Nemesis identified TPA's position, the drone up through attic, that was their opportunity to make a decision. And this time, they made one quickly. They decided, you know what, ignore the Vigil. Straight onto the bomb site, let's get this execute going. But that very decision is what cost them the round. The Vigil was able to really rotate and roam free in Meeting Hall. Bales couldn't do anything about it because there were no drones, no teammates to support that position. A great job there for TPA, a persistent roamer who capitalized on every little thing that Nemesis tried to do after that, unfortunate 3v5 situation presented itself.
I think this is really where the Nomad ban starts to show its largest effect for Wichita, who are they're just roaming free. I mean, in every basement attack, when you have Nomad on the board, you're going to instantly put an air jab on the back staircase because there's just no reason not to. No reason to allow the defense to have that open as an avenue to flank up and to dismantle your attack. It wasn't present. There wasn't, a Claymore or any gridlock that's been played for Nemesis. And so he just walked up and found 2 players there in backstage, instantly transforming the course of that round. Wichita will go for their dorms hold again, kind of the new stage Rooney setup. And I'm curious to see what is going to change about this and how Nemesis will work around the Aruni gates, because from face value, it doesn't seem like the Aruni gates really do all too much. It's more like the issue of confronting them that has shell-shocked Nemesis, especially when you look at the way that they held that vertical extension last round. Just one Aruni gate being placed there on the door of kitchen prevented Nemesis from being able to clear that Jaeger for such a long duration on the round that it allowed them to persevere in this strategy. We'll look to see if that changes. This time, Nemesis ignore the vertical hold, instead focusing on a much more traditional front side split take. What is different though? TPA on the prowl.
Yeah, you've got TPA not over on the freezer side, and Shu is not going to be holding kitchen for much longer either. They've already rotated over to this meeting side, ready to get a flank going and possibly pressure these attackers, going for this default split take. Twizzler's going to find themselves in a very tough position, going for the swing, and the aggression pays off again. A beautiful headshot onto box to put Nemesis on the back foot, but caught in the reload animation. A great shot there from Joe to finish that one out. Faded is there with a quick response, and here comes that flank. TPA gets one onto Joe, and again, Nemesis completely destroyed by these flankers and by this aggressive play. Here comes another one. That's Shu getting far too aggressive, throwing away their life to red and allowing Nemesis to possibly eke their way back in this fight. But Faded, Morocco, TPA, they're going to hold this one down.
One thing that Wichita have in their playbook is diffuser possession, and no one from Nemesis really in an easy spot to be able to recover this. It looks like Boji wants to jump out on a highway here and cross in through the satellite window. No doubt TPA is going to make that as difficult as he can. Red will drop down to provide the support as TPA, he does manage to finish off the Zofia, and now your Maverick, the sole attacker left, with 30 seconds to find the defuse case and rush in for site control. Wichita not only with the question of the manpower, but also plenty of utility. The final gas canister tossed out, and TPA simply plays the smart angle right through the open breach, working well against Nemesis, who again can't seem to get their head around these flanks. They need to incorporate the Nomad. I think at this point it's time to make the call that having, your soft destructors, your hard breach, they're all necessary for organ attacks, But if your rounds are getting picked apart by Wichita, who continue to appear as a nuisance on the flank, I think it's time to make that decision.
Well, with that win under their belt, Wichita have found themselves on match point here. They're sitting at 6-4. 2 match points now is what they have earned. The first one, though, will have to be on a tertiary bomb site of their choice. Again, we've talked about this a little bit earlier, but you have 2 decisions, and a lot of teams, they go back and forth. You either have kitchen and meeting or kitchen and dining. Meeting was the choice of Nemesis and appears to be the choice of the Wichita Wolves as well. Like dining, but more so, this one comes down to the vertical hold in attic and in kids. That's likely why we're going to see quite a bit of an extension on this top floor. You've got a lot of utility to assist that. You've got the mute jammers, that information denial. You've got the black eye cameras from the Valkyrie. You've got that information game there, and Faded is bringing those Maestro cams. So plentiful information coming out from the Wichita Wolves, but honestly, a little bit lack of somewhat of an extension. You've got TPA playing here in tower, but actually reinforcing these walls here and not electing to play any sort of rotation through the tower. And only one player, at least for the time being, that's Twizzler, is playing on the vertical angles, but actually dropping on down to meeting instead. So a surprising lack of vertical should allow Nemesis to actually take control rather quickly if they so choose. But of course, you've got Shu and Morocco, these 2 roamers who have just been relentless. TPA as well. They have just been a thorn in the side of this Nemesis attack from the get-go, and it appears that they have no signs of stopping. They're going back and forth, dancing around upstairs, downstairs, every which way, just waiting to contest Nemesis at every entry point.
Not much contention that'll actually go down on the events of taking games. Shu is going to be the primary element of confrontation, but bails with smart shots placed right through the wall, and Boji finishing it off. Morocco saw his team just fall into his arms. Refrag is there, though, from TPA, making that effort to secure the roam, dodging back and forth, yet to give this one up. He's still just kind of sitting here near main, and it feels like that's what's been happening for these defensive extensions. They get to sit and wait in these positions, causing more and more time, more of a headache, more stress on the attackers, and it's something that they've struggled so much in responding to. Nobody from Nemesis takes up that opportunity to collect onto the Valk, who now is rotated to Zig. Wide swinging, she'll Stewie 2K right through the smoke, eliminating Joe. Nearly a potato. The ace will go down as it's the pistol that comes out for the confirm. Frag grenade cooked, ready to be tossed deep there inside freezer, or rather security, but the res is in. Wichita Wolves command a 4 versus 2 on their match point. Fox taking a tiny sliver of damage from who knows where. Still trying to hold this one off and get the footing to go for their attack. They have diffuser. They don't have many frag grenades. Red is out. Fox has all 3 of his soft destruction charges there in the launcher, but that might not be enough. When you've got so many strong weapons, the MP5, the Alda that's ready to rip through you at any moment, and Nemesis, they can't get over this hill. Here goes Box, he drops on down, finds the first one, but Morocco seals the deal for Oregon. Wichita Wolves in round number 11 claim victory on their opponent's map pick.
Yeah, sealing it off here, Wichita Wolves doing a great job to just be as belligerent as always. The roam, the extensions, and just it got the better of Nemesis round after round. The one attacking round that Nemesis were able to secure was quite a successful basement attack. And honestly, I was thinking we were sitting at 4-4 at that point. It was looking really good. But then the Wichita Wolves, they just said, you know what, let's just run away with this one here, taking basement, then dorms, then meeting in kitchen in a clean 3-round sweep, and sealing out map 1 victory. They're already going to walk away with 3 guaranteed points now that the decisive victory is confirmed. And well, that is a pretty good spot to be, especially on your opponent's map pick. Of course, Nemesis, they chose to go to Oregon here tonight. Villa, our next map, that is where Wichita Wolves, well, that's their prowling ground.
Great way to put it, moving into the next map. And I think watching not only the cost, but also the entry deaths to entry opening kills between both of these teams is going to tell you a lot about how rounds were transpired, where for most of Oregon, in Nemesis's hands, it just looked like Wichita were having the first say in every single round. Their roam was so petulant. There was nothing that Nemesis could bring to the table that would stall it out. It didn't seem like Wichita ever had to shake up their strategies or go for something different, because the initial playstyle that they brought to the playing field was unbeatable against the Nemesis playstyle, and it just simply was two clashing of titans where Wichita had much more force behind them. Moving next to Villa, I am a bit worried to see maybe my prediction not go the right way as I had gone for here, but I think this shows the way that Wichita play excellent in the adaptations, and they came in with a vanilla style of Siege, and Nemesis could not get their hands around the basics.
Well, you do say vanilla, but bringing a Rooney, that isn't vanilla by any means, right? I mean, you love to see that kind of creativity come out from these teams, especially with this operator who is so new, literally brand new in this meta. It is great to see Wichita Wolves actually bring her out and utilize her quite well, I've got to say. Rooney was part of their overall strategy, it seemed, to dictate the pace of every round. That's why we talked about Wichita Wolves so much, not only on their attacking half, but on their defensive side as well. Whether that was with their attacks and the way they structured the pacing there, or whether that was with their defensive extensions and how they wanted to play that manpower, they did such a good job of dictating the flow of each round, and Nemesis kind of fell victim to that. And I mean, as you can see here, I mean, just the entry and the cost. Twizzler. Look at that 100% cost. I mean, I think that really just shows Wichita Wolves, they are here to play.
100 cost really speaks for itself, and Twizzler packing quite the rating. A 1.66, flying high above the average for your opponent's map pick. Wichita Wolves, they look really comfortable. And going on to the next map, Villa in play. There might be a few issues on board. If Nemesis could pull it out and swap picks here, I think, that would be a little bit more of a boost going into round number 2. But their coach, Fogo, has a lot of substance material from this game to look at. And I have to say, for Wichita, banning that Nomad just felt like the perfect storm.
And it's a storm that can once again be a problem for Nemesis on Villa, right? I mean, a map that is characterized so much by roam, so much by really big flank plays and extensions. In my opinion, I mean, in my experience, Villa is a map that allows you to set the pace even more than Oregon. And the fact that Wichita Wolves were able to do that on a map that it is so hard to actually pull off well, I do think that really sends a bunch of good signals their way for Villa. I mean, that is a map that has extensions on every single bomb site, that has roams on every single bomb site, and on the attacking side, you have so many options as well. Do you want to go for that top-down clear? Do you want to go for that full roam clear, or are you going for that more aggressive take? That is what I really loved from Wichita Wolves in this one, and again, what I can hope to see from them in map 2.
And I would go as far to say that Villa, in a characterization, is more of a roamer's paradise than even Oregon, which is only starting to get into the infancy of some of those extensions. This is a dangerous course for Nemesis to travel down, and given the break period in between maps, I'm hoping that they can sit down, they can talk it out, and they can try to figure out what has to move, what's got to change, now that they can, at least speak with their coach and kind of try to get their head around what happened there. Maybe a timeout would have worked better and could have allowed them to play better. I'm not sure why they wouldn't have gone for that, but it's just a question that we don't have a clear answer to. Going forward to Villa, where I think there is a little bit more freedom on the map bans, or rather operator bans. I don't know how that's going to go, but I think we're going to go to a little bit of a break maybe to try to get cooled off before we jump into the second map. So stick with us. Don't close this tab.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to SCS and welcome back to what has been a pretty good series so far. We've got Wichita Wolves, Nemesis. The first map did not go in Nemesis' favor. Despite picking Oregon and choosing to go to that map here tonight, Wichita Wolves were able to take a victory. 7-4 was the overall scoreline. But headed into Villa next, we've already talked about this a little bit already, about what we can expect to see just based on what we've learned from our first map. Sticula, take us through it.
Well, I think the Nomad is almost a definite yes for Wichita's ban, and I don't know what else they would really choose to remove here. I think there is kind of maybe an element that you could justify for a hard breach, but it's just the way that the Nomad ban has affected Nemesis. They haven't been able to respond, I would say, at all. They're not, seeing an uptick in claymores, or really a whole lot of flank drones, which is kind of a warning sign. No gridlock being introduced. I would say Villa is maybe a tiny bit more of a flexible map in terms of allowing you to sneak in your roam denial or your flank coverage a little bit more. It's just because there's so many routes for flanking. Whether you're sneaking up Astro to dispatch of an aviator take, or maybe you're coming out of the basement when there's some funky stuff going on inside of the kitchen. So many problems to worry about here. Wichita have the second ban, so we'll have the immediate response from Nemesis to see if there's anything on the attack that they have found out. I don't think there's really anything key that they could characterize and could really kneecap Wichita. Probably just going to be a stock standard hard breach or your Thatcher.
Yeah, nothing unusual generally on Villa in terms of the bans. You've generally got your standard attacking bans. The defense is where it can slightly vary up a little bit. Maybe you want to take out the Maestro or the Valkyrie, the Malusi, somewhere in that regard, or just stick to your usual hard breacher denial bans. The Kaid, another very common ban on this map. The Nomad, again, banned right out. And Nemesis, they've already got to be a little bit worried about that one. The Mira to join the Nomad in the rubbish bin will signify that we are seeing quite a stock standard ban phase here. But I do like what you highlighted, Sticula, about the dangers that Nemesis could face on their attacking side. But the good thing for them is they do get to start things out on the defense, right? They are the ones that can really have the opportunity to come out ahead here. This is a map that used to be very defensive-sided, but has slowly worked its way back to that more even ground, like many maps are actually doing right now in the map pool, which is great to see in my opinion. But I honestly think that we could see another back-and-forth map. Oregon, it started out so back and forth. Even though it was Wichita who started on the attack, they were able to dictate the pace of Oregon as well. They had that clean 3-3 first half, and that just allowed them to go on into that second half with all the confidence in the world.
Gotta say, you're spot on here with the first defense for Nemesis. I think you're probably thanking their lucky stars that this is the event we will have go down. Obviously, because this is Wichita's map pick, it is Nemesis who get to decide where they would like to begin. And for their sake, I'm hoping that we see Nemesis pull ahead and achieve a result that is above par. You don't want to put yourself in that 3-3 because that's exactly what we had on Oregon, which is, I would say, maybe a bit more of maybe a defender biased map than something like Villa, which has kind of crept back to kind of your even Stevens sort of point of view. And it's all about Nemesis. They have to win at least 4 defenses if they aren't going to make the change on attack, which I hope so much that Nemesis start to bring something to tamper down on Wichita's flank, because Wichita, I would say, are one of the more flank heavy teams in the league. They have the playmakers that are able to position themselves to waste time, especially when we were looking at TPA at Morocco. They're just constantly picking away at the sides of your attack, and that's not something that you're going to have a whole lot of fun with once we get onto the second split. The Dokkaebi is going to be brought out by Shu. Wichita really flexing their muscles in terms of which operators they're introducing to their composition. For Dokkaebi having a strong rifle and frag grenades behind it, I'm on board with this pick.
Well, already it's gonna get pretty action-packed early on. You've got Boji taking a quick little flurry of engagements over with TPA. who's working their way up on this bathroom-sided clear. Dealing with that Malusi Banshee on the top of those stairs. That's one step, but you still need to deal with Bales. He's got a shield here, and there's C4s raining up from below to assist this Goyo. A great C4 coming out from Boji there to take down TPA. The Ash, that big entry player who is lighting up the scoreboard and the stats in map 1, will not be able to do so in this first round. It's going to have to be Morocco instead who takes up the reins of the entry, finally clearing out this extension on the trophy and statuary side. Sure, that's one step, but with a 90-second mark now finding itself present, they need to really work their way up and actually get into 90. They haven't dealt with Box. They haven't dealt with Red. Nemesis in a very good position to just continue to stall out this attack.
So this strategy we're looking at is a derivative of a strat that was brought out by Team Empire in one of the, I think it was the November Major, where you'll have pressure on Red to prevent Wichita, or, you know, any opponent in a given case, from taking swift control of 90. I would say it's been successful so far. There's 60 seconds. What's the question of the hard breach? The hunting vault wall is not open. Faded, or it is open. There's one section that's open, and it actually just completely works against the attackers. Pardon my misspeak there. Joe fells Morocco, so it's a man disadvantage as Twizzler tries to play precariously on the edges, the fringe of this toxic canister, but continues to take small breath after small breath. Wichita have 30 seconds to find their footing in an execute that seems somewhat disorganized. The Dokkaebi has rotated to come in from the veranda as Faded guns down Boji. Bale soon to be caught between two attackers. He's forced out of position. Wichita have now claimed the man advantage with 20 seconds. Will it be enough?
Well, Box is here to hold out this push, still has a shield to work with, and the attackers simply have no time. Faded doesn't seem to care. He's going to swing on in and find Joe. Can Box get it? Yes, he'll get one, but Faded make sure that that is the only kill that Wamai can find in this round, and Wichita will take their attack, really just coming out of nowhere, taking that man advantage back in their hands, and just rolling on through the bomb site.
I think you have to celebrate Faded in that performance because the time was so low, Wichita could not afford to play that slow and structured. Thank you to our wonderful observer, Max, for bringing up the scoreboard. He got a quad kill, just obliterated the study hold, flew into the site, protected the plant, and made sure that Wichita got that round. That, I don't know if they had a lot of business winning, but Nemesis kind of opened themselves up to that. They had the man advantage, but yet they still chose to hold on to control and study, which is kind of a puzzling decision for me. When you have that man advantage, when the time is low, you want to run those choke points and not put yourself in an open position, like sitting in study on the hatch where you have the opportunity to be pressured from what? 3 angles at once, maybe 4 if you have somebody that creeps up the main stairwell. There's already somebody on the window, Faded, who we know is hunting and hungry for frags. Your Dokkaebi rotates from the veranda. If Nemesis had just played that a little bit more passive and had not given away their gunfights, that might have been a defensive round for them. But as Wichita kicking off the first half, they already are looking in good form. Let's hope for more of a normal attack round.
Well, I mean, that's the thing with Box, right? You definitely called out what I think exactly was the problem with that Nemesis hold. Despite the advantage, they were staying in these extended positions, these, I mean, quite strong power positions, don't get me wrong, but overstaying their welcome just a little bit. The position that Box was holding with 15 seconds left, it is one of the strongest positions on Aviator in games. You can shut down a push from anywhere. However, when most of the attacking pressure is working its way in from that study, from the landing side, working its way in Aviator behind the gun vault door, the position from Box is not really all that useful. There was no way that they could deny the plant, and there's no way that they could support their teammate who was on the bomb site. And as a result, Wichita were able to take a couple of those just 1v1 gunfights, and Faded, like you said, Stigula just wins those out. It's going to come down to this clear again, though. We're seeing Nemesis repeat the same bomb site and largely repeating the very same setup. Bales this time is going to fall off this angle a little bit earlier, and Boji is not going to bother contesting on the Astro stairs at all. That's given TPA the right to actually push on up and look to cut off this rotation. But for now, nobody's actually going to deal with that. Bales is working his way up the main stairs right now, and Boji is starting to just slowly fall on back to the bomb site itself. Great, though, from Nemesis that even though they didn't hold this quite as hard, they've actually taken up the exact same amount of time off the clock. The 90-second mark has now come and gone, and only now are Wichita making their entry into that 90 haul.
Another round with a bit of a rocky start, but Wichita can't afford to put all their cards on Faded to go for a huge performance as we saw him do prior. The one thing that they have going for them is the fact that they've taken Study and the trophy side control without losing a man like they did last time. We'll return to the question of this Study hold, which in this scenario I would say is more valuable. You have to be able to swing wide and constantly apply that pressure, because if you don't have somebody on Study side, that means Wichita can fly right in and try to go for a safe plant behind the vault, or maybe even close to the risk table. Bayless is going to try to contest that spot just the same. The wall has been open there, whether by virtue of the defense's pre-existing strategy or something that Wichita themselves are trying to get going. Twizzler will claim the opener as your Jaeger goes down, constantly trying to get this battle going. TPA hops in, hunting vault clear, he'll go for the swing. One player spotted just there, the highlight through the wall at the top of the stairwell, but creeping around the fringe of the shield. Box goes down, Bale's caught out between three attackers. Wichita with plenty of site control to get this round brewing, and Boji finds himself in the wrong end of a 1 versus 5. Wichita claim a flawless round, much better than their first attempt, but that's 2 in a row.
Stellar job there from Wichita. Just all those small things that were going kind of back and forth in that first round. Wichita just said, you know what, let's not let that happen again. Just storming on in and just winning out their gunfights. Again, Box was a little bit off the bomb site, playing behind that deployable shield, facing the 90 hallway, lost that gunfight there. A couple of gunfights were lost in Aviator. You had a player stuck behind the maps table, and with gun vault pressure completely in the hands of the attack, you had the pressure from the top of Red Stairs. Great job from Wichita, covering all of their bases, and even though Nemesis did change up their strategy just a little bit there, we didn't see, I'd argue, enough of an adjustment to really say that really played out differently. Nemesis they didn't put as much forward-facing pressure onto the attackers as they worked their way in Master, and like I highlighted, that was fine because Wichita still took their time clearing that out, ever wary that Nemesis would be lurking around a corner here or there. But despite that, despite having more manpower on the bomb site for the eventual execute, Nemesis just could not win out those gunfights and hold down a couple of those key moments that really dictated the pace of the round for Wichita Wolves. They got gun vault open, and it was nothing. There was no C4 from below. There was really a couple of pieces of utility that I think could have been utilized better on the side of Nemesis, and Wichita, they are happy to take 2 rounds in a row, especially on a site that is definitely tough to attack. Switching up to Kitchen and Dining now.
So we have more of kind of your thinking man's extension going on upstairs with the introduction of the castle to block crucial sight lines. The one big one that I'm thinking about is the Astro window has been locked off, so you can't immediately have somebody go for that rappel and then prevent for, say, maybe somebody swapping back and forth between trophy and statue. Red is going to play Astro with support from Box, who lurks below the stairs. Wichita's attack is mostly focused on a very wide-sweeping study take. Instead of trying to directly hop into Master Bedroom, where I think Nemesis are probably holding the most focus, they're going to try to get a wider angle of coverage, and I think that's the smart decision to make here, so long as they don't spend too much time to get it happen. Morocco has taken control of Statue, full reinforcements here, so no opportunity to rotate, and I don't think we're going to see much soft destruction, or rather hard breach used to create this opening. Morocco will go 1 for 1. He gets Box gone for on the Astro staircase, and does manage to by proxy eliminate control of Astro, as we'll see one of the players, the Jaeger, drop that down. So now there should be imminent vertical control, and just like that, we'll see the Ash obliterate Red. 4 versus 3 for Wichita as they move further and further in their advance to try to get control of the site. They don't have a sledge being brought on the board here, only one set of breaching charges, so that's going to be kind of constricting your use of the hard breach, or rather your vertical play, to get superiority onto the site. However, it doesn't matter much so far, as Wichita Wolves are playing fine, even without it.
Seems that Wichita really are just, they have their way in this series right now. Bale's coming on up, gets a C4, but spotted out by the Twitch drone, and actually Twizzler is going to seal that kill off as well. That leaves Joe in a 1v3. He knows the drop came in and actually sees 2 players, nearly gets one. Twizzler escaping, a perfectly timed flashbang blinds Joe, and Twizzler capitalizes on the swing. A hilarious way to close out that round, but not so funny for the hopes of Nemesis. That's 3 rounds in a row on the defensive side that they were not able to secure. Wichita Wolves, they really are having their way with Villa right now.
I gotta say, this has given me similar feelings to what we had between Aggro and Synthetic the other day, where it just looked like one team absolutely was spot on in every single moment, and their opponent was not having a fun time about it. That's 3 attack rounds, quite the commanding position for Wichita, already at least guaranteeing the position of an even half with the opulent future of their Rome game on the defensive side of things on the horizon here for what might be coming up next. We've got the rest of their attacks. We'll go ahead and break them down. This will be another AVG hold. So far, what we've seen in terms of the rotation was Aviator played on the first 2 rounds, and then we just got done with that dining vertical extension setup. AVG was the closest of any of these sites in round number 1, where Wichita kind of pushed a little bit willy-nilly, though it was still a round win, as you can see, dictated by the 3-0 scoreline. The way that that was mostly made happen was kind of just your standard look at how this all would work out. You go for master side control. Eventually, you get into trophy and statue. You lock off an astro flank, and then you progress for Nemesis, what has been your Jaeger holding at Red, the Team Empire strategy that I had mentioned earlier. But Red, he's a great player. He performed well in Challenger League, but he's not joystick, and to expect him individually to deny this hold as an absolute here at Red Landing, I think might be a little bit worrying, and he needs a little bit more support from his teammate. From what I've seen, this looks like Nemesis kind of played a little bit more withdrawn. They're not fully trying to hold this until the end of the earth, and this might even be more of a conservative round than we have seen in the past, where in previous interpretations, the Goya would lurk inside trophy before falling off and giving up that control.
Yeah, there is a lack of the Goyo at all in this lineup. Boji is, again, playing that Malusi, but like you highlighted, Sticulum isn't going to be contesting on the Astro side pressure at all. Just straight up holding 90, waiting for the pressure to come on through. And this time, knowing that they don't have to deal with much, Wichita Wolves have made a 30-second improvement in the overall, phase of this round. DPA is going to take a little bit of chip damage there. A nice spray coming out from Boji, but that means 90 control has now been pretty much, I think, sacrificed now from Nemesis. Yeah, that's going to be confirmed. You've got the 90 window repel, and you've got TPA already pushing up into 90, and that is going to be a lot of control for Wichita Wolves at a very early point in the round. Twizzler hoping to get that Electro Claw off the wall. One of those Twitch drones is actually going to be shot out. A couple of nades are going to come on through as we see Box just texting for now. Get off your phone, man. You've got a couple of players to kill. The first of which is TPA, but a player that just cannot be killed from anywhere. A C4 from below is going to miss. TPA is going to capitalize on that, getting one. This time Red will get a response, however, cutting down Morocco to neutralize that. TPA on the swing will down Boji, but not able to get the kill, and Box is going to cut them down. Goodbye TPA. Joe, in fact, is going to be the one to seal this one off. Boji in a possible position to be revived, and now with the pressure mounting in from Study and a nade that's a little bit late, Boji is going to escape with about 1 HP.
What a pixel shot there, Twizzler right onto the head of box as Wichita finding their way back into an even footing. Shots exchanged for Joe and his supporting defensive teammate there inside the hunting vault, but the smoke swings out right into the waiting sight line for the Mark 14. Red still tries to battle this one back, but Boji has 3 attackers staring him down, and Wichita Wolves pick up their 4th round, which is just clinical attack after attack, picking apart the defensive strategy no matter which slice we look at.
I mean, this is very impressive from Wichita Wolves. I mean, it's not that Nemesis are making many mistakes. Nothing too noticeable here. It's just coming down to these gunfights. In that round, I mean, the Wichita attack was kind of all over the place. There wasn't one cohesive push. There wasn't even a split take. It was kind of an all-over push. And it actually worked out very, very well. It's just those gunfights that Wichita Wolves are they're just winning. They are just winning everything right now, and that confidence is clearly shown in their playstyle, but a confidence that is well-deserved. 4 rounds in a row on Villa attack, and Nemesis have had hardly an answer for anything. A couple of these rounds have been close, but a flawless round just a few rounds ago on the Aviator and game site for Wichita, and again, another just brutal victory in round number 4, even with the Nemesis trading a couple of kills back here and there. Wichita Wolves show no signs of stopping, and I think Nemesis, wow, they're going for quite an extension here. I was wondering if they're going for some sort of fake because they all sprinted over in one big pack, but no, it's just going to be quite a bit of utility utilized on this extension in Aviator, electing for the first time to go to Trophy and Statuary and hold this site down.
I don't know if I've ever seen one of the fake strategies where you try to confuse the attackers into believing it's the opposite objective. The problem with going for that move on Villa, though it's not being implemented from Nemesis, is that when you're attacking AVG, JZ, what's the first step? To take control of Statue and Trophy. So either way, you're going to be approaching the objective, whether it's more of an immediacy or something down the line. Faded 5-0. He's been a monster so far, and Twizzler is even ahead with a undefeated scorecard. The Banshee's been cleared, Boji prone. The Ash needs to be careful here. I think she's going to play this more conservatively, more passive. It would be quite a shame to see TPA just push ahead of his teammates to charge in before they're able to get either superiority far on the other side or the wall open. I mean, it just doesn't matter for TPA. He flies in, he eliminates Boji as Bales misses. No, he might have just given this away.
Oh,
what
no.
a misplay on the main staircase. Bales goes down. Wichita, for what might be their 5th round, quite a commanding position. Red gets Twizzler still being difficult on this extension, and the Jaeger single-handedly making this workable. Twizzler and TPA taken down for the count as Wichita, they're struggling to find their way back up into the fight.
This is what happens when, you know, the competitive and methodical disciplined nature of a round just kind of collapses. These kind of big individual plays, I mean, they become quite easy to pull off. Red is proving that, almost getting 2 in fact, but instead Wichita is going to flood into the bomb site, lining up for Joe. He's going to get a double kill, and all of a sudden there's only Shu left. Joe seals it out, first the 2 on the lineup, and then the triple kill, the SMG-11 in Joe's hands. Quite a weapon.
What a play by the Smoke, the Sentinel of Statue and Trophy, denying Wichita from what looked like a nightmare scenario when Bales had fallen on the staircase there. Oh, we got the instant replay in. This is such a great feature. Yeah, Joe, I mean, he was just sailing on through there with his hold, and Nemesis, by the efforts of a single duo between Red and Joe, they finally get a round win. We will not see the flawless victory that perhaps I had foretold earlier, but Wichita, I mean, even still, I think they're in quite the advantaged position given that this is their map pick and they have 4 attacks. This next one is a crucial turning point for Nemesis, who cannot afford to give Wichita one step closer to match point.
Well, like I was saying before the Absolute, just incredible lineup from Joe. When rounds start to go like that, right? When it's just all going in Wichita Wolves' favor, we could see how their attack was just devolving into something that you don't normally like to see, but something that often happens when you just have so much confidence, when it seems that you can't lose a single gunfight, and when there's nothing your opponent can do to answer. Because of that, there was a lack of coordination. They didn't drone out Red. They didn't seem to care that Red was in Gun Vault. TPA should have been there to respond, but instead was paying attention to something else, not focusing on his teammate who had just got taken down in front of his eyes. And these kind of mistakes, we have not seen them all match from either of these teams. They do tend to come out, though, when we do see this kind of degrade into a ranked style, more of an aggressive style of play. But I think that loss there should probably be a rude awakening for the Wichita Wolves. They're likely not going to make the same mistake again. Going for this aggression, however, that may not be the best sign. At least Morocco will no longer be able to fight in this round, and, well, nor will Red. Shu is going to get a long angle, just sitting in spawn, looking through this bore window, collecting a kill, neutralizing that early misstep from Morocco.
It's positions like that that really benefit the most the long-range capability of your DMRs being brought by the offense. Boji hides below. Nitro launched up. There's one player nearly right on top of it. Twizzler taking so much damage. But thankfully, he brought his flak jacket today and stays alive with just a sliver of HP still, though. Utility in the form of flashbangs and the FAMAS, a weapon that you never want to fight against. Nemesis have some question of a roam downstairs that maybe Wichita are seeking to look at. Right around the corner, Boji nearly goes for the shift, challenges the Ash. She has to make this one happen. So little HP, and the pistol confirms it for Boji. Nemesis hold down control of the map in a much improved round so far, winning these challenges and hiding away, hitting their heads-up gunfights 3 versus 4, a disadvantage, and Twizzler still on low HP. We're back to the same situation, but the frag grenade, it's tossed, it gets him! Martyrdom beyond the grave for Senpai, a trade in study.
Unfortunate that Faded was not able to get the coverage. That should have been an easy kill for Faded, but instead allowing his teammate to get taken down, although finding another kill onto Boji to bring this one back to even. I said it was degrading, and I thought it would just be round number 5, but it seems to have persisted. A lot of these just off-site engagements, a couple of ridiculous engagements, as that one we saw downstairs in Piano, but one that now Wichita Wolves are going to be looking to turn into their advantage. They force Nemesis over towards the game's side. Twizzler and Faded, they have a chance to push on through, but the last toxic canister is going to delay that ever longer. Twizzler, so low HP, doesn't want to risk even taking a little bit of damage from that smoke, waiting for it to dissipate, now going with the flash dump. Faded again, covering the probable inevitable planter, going for the swing, but in fact denied. Twizzler now has to make it happen, finding one, looking for the second, hopping up onto the map's table, but 3 seconds are left, and Twizzler now has to stick this. Box has a free kill, just got to get there in time, running on up, and in the nick of time, just sealing out the victory. Nemesis, they recover 2 rounds on their defensive half. A 4-2 split, though, for Wichita Wolves on their attack. Definitely the upper hand, no doubt.
I think what really sent that round flying off the rails and what characterized the end stage there and the inability for Wichita to win it out, it's got to just be the chaotic nature that you mentioned. Round 5 was the breakdown, and number 6 was sort of the fallout that came afterwards. Because Wichita were playing less coordinated and kind of went for more individual plays, such as the Ash solo clearing below. I mean, she really had no business going down there. The Nitro had already been wasted, and she didn't contribute anything to the course of the round. They were not able to win and clear the mid-jammers, which we saw cause a real problem when Wichita had to force their way onto the site. The Ace walked into a pre-existing angle that the smoke held down expertly because the Selmas were unable in all matter to get that open wall. It was just simply a choke point, which you put the SMG-11 on the opposite end of one of those, and that's really the position where you're going to see the most reward in the treasure chest. Of course, as you mentioned, we're hitting the even half, where Wichita have Quite an option here. And I'm watching eagerly to see if they're going for the same Oregon roam that was so obnoxious and so problematic for Nemesis, or if this is going to be more of a kind of sound strategy.
Well, they got this typical castle anchor hold thing going on in the master side.
Right.
You've got those castle barricades utilized on those little windows facing that master wall. You don't have a rotate hold, though. It's just some soft destruction there. So nothing crazy in terms of a trophy and statuary hold. They are just going to mainly go for, a pretty basic extension here. They're not going for any isolated roamers. Every roamer or every extended player is supported by quite a bit of that utility. Talk about brain-dead plays. You've got Red in the middle of the bomb site, finding one kill, but Faded will fry the Ash and seal that one out and bring things back to even. But man, oh man, has this taken a quick turn. Fails is now looking to catch out another player. In this case, that's TPA, the roaming Goyo, playing below in Library, tempting swing after swing onto the 0. Couple of shots exchanged, both players missing a C4 toss, but shot out of the air. Now Bales on the swing, and he will capitalize. TPA out of this round. A Goyo isolated in Library on the extended roam, and it's not going to pay off. I guess those first few things I said about not too many extended roamers, well, I completely lied to you. You've got TPA just going for the crazy plays. Morocco, he's going for the crazy swings as well. He'll swing out onto Study and cut down Bales, neutralizing that early Nemesis advantage.
And the tempo of this round has really changed. Immediately at the kickoff, it was a full rush, where Red was in the midst of the objective and had claimed the opening frag, but only to go 1 for 1. Now things have kind of slowed down just a little bit for more of what is a passive setup here. Box has control of back bar, but the UMP still wins it out as they try to hold this one down. Not going to have a whole lot of luck against the AK-12. Faded with so little HP, 2 smoke canisters to his name. He'll try to find the angle to send it through deeply, and Joe will go and stick the plant. The smoke canister not affecting him. 2 versus 1 for the final bastion of the Wichita defense in this first round. Holding it off as Faded knows he has long angles to play where the SMG-11 is not at its highest point. And Boji still holds this, playing conservatively, peeking and pre-firing, keeping the final defender away from this bomb at all costs. The shotgun comes out. Faded knows that he has to make a play. 1 sent through, but it's the ace who will get it all done in round number 7 to claim Nemesis' first attack win.
Well, here I was, Sticula, hoping that the half could be the reset button, right? It could be the time where these teams can say, you know what, we've had our fun, we've done the craziness, it was ranked for a round or 2, let's bring it back and refocus. And, well, those hopes were immediately squashed by the fact that Red decided to just run into the bomb site in the middle of the round, the very beginning of the round, in fact. Now, I'm hoping that Red got his Ash plays, out of his system. He's shaken that off, and he's ready to play with the team. And I'm hoping that Wichita Wolves as well, they're going to play a little bit more tame here. Of course, they're not inherently a very tame team. We saw that on Oregon. They wanted to play crazy, extended, aggressive, coordinated, but that coordination has slightly fallen by the wayside as the confidence meter has definitely reached its limits. And I'm hoping that Wichita Wolves and Nemesis both realize that this has taken quite a turn and it's time to refocus on, good old-fashioned standard competitive Siege. I mean, it is fun to watch, don't get me wrong, but I'm hoping for some pretty cool plays to analyze here, Sticula. I'm not hoping for an Ash to be in the middle of the bomb site round after round. I'm happy to hear your thoughts on that, though.
It's good to have some of those games have more action, but I feel like when you're playing that ranked style, the problem is the consistency. You can't always expect somebody to go for this 1 in a million play, and even though Red was immediately in action to get Shu on that previous round, I don't know if he really had any business walking into the objective. That's the defender's territory, and maybe you should travel in the buddy system rather than going in on your lonesome. I like the way that Wichita had that strategy. I mean, it was much more kind of developed. It was like, actually, we're gonna hold control of Statue this time, compared to where Nemesis were just like, let's sit here and let's wait, and then at the first sign of pressure, let's give it up. You have a setup that I think is more accommodating to a long haul hold, but Red is already jumping in and trying to disregard what Wichita might have had in their storyline for round number 8. He's close up at the wall, but Jaeger's looking to contest. The Selma is sent through, and here goes Red on the swing, looking to try and engage. Morocco goes down. Red with a great long shot on a TPA. Nemesis already find themselves at a 5 versus 3.
Wichita Wolves falling victim to one of the typical problems of any really severe extension like this, right? They put so much utility, so much manpower and time to getting this setup down, only to lose both players within 60 seconds of the round starting. I mean, it's the high risk, high reward nature of these very extensions on a map like Villa. This time, Nemesis perfectly capitalizing, and rather than using the opportunity to rush the bomb site, using the opportunity to just get a couple of early frags. So a great job there from Nemesis, and those 2 kills and that clearance is going to give them a tremendous 2-man advantage right now and give them ample time to rotate and really just play with the amount of time that they do have. You've got Joe, who's rotated around to the study Balk side. You've got Boji, who's now droning in from the study Balk as well, from the study window here, looking to hold off this cross. Shu has something else in mind, though, going for a swing, narrowly missing the kill onto Joe. Twizzler finds a response, cutting down Bales there, but Faded has fallen onto his back in the meantime. And now, with Shu's position fully known, and with this position cut off by Boji here, Wichita Wolves again, really on the struggle bus.
OG is still trying to fight away on this long angle as the time runs lower and lower for Wichita, who are playing this so expertly, not giving away any of these fights. Shivers down my spine as we get so close to what had happened in many rounds on Oregon, where Wichita, this case Nemesis, spent so much time getting prepared for an execute that might not have ever come. Senpai, he's got to fight against Boji, who pops up around the shield. Red still holds him back, and Twizzler there hiding deeply. Twizzler for a quad, give him the ace! What a clutch for him, holding it down in the best way possible for Wichita. It's the UMP!
What? What just happened again? But this time it is Wichita Wolves on the winning end of some more late round shenanigans. A double push in there from Nemesis. Another great job to try to get this crossfire. Oh, the replay there. Twizzler just says no. Double kill to close it out. The ace delivered, and Wichita Wolves potentially stopping the bleeding. A couple of, those early attacking rounds just look so strong, but then Nemesis with 3 rounds in a row, we're looking like that we're going to make the comeback happen. But Twizzler single-handedly dismantling what remained of the comeback, taking that 5-3 lead now. But Nemesis, they've got a choice here. They can really put on the step on the gas. They can really close this gap and neutralize this advantage. But Wichita, they are, if they can return to form, if they can return to that early round form, then I think they could seal this one out here. But their defensive rounds, Sticula, have not been really indicative of a lot of confidence on this side of this team. Well, they've been showcasing confidence, but it hasn't given me confidence in their actual performance. None of these rounds have really been clean. Even that one came down to Twizzler on the ace clutch. I'd argue that Nemesis are still in a position to really come out strong here, given that the only round in the last 4 rounds that they lost was a result of an ace.
I would definitely agree with your synopsis of how that went, and the fact that Nemesis have a fighting chance on their opponent's map pick. They're keeping their head above water on the attack, which is not the easiest thing to do in the world, especially given how well Wichita played on the first half. There was 4 rounds in a row. That's pretty demotivating, if you ask me. They're still fighting their way through here. Currently, 3 rounds away from at least guaranteeing themselves 1 point out of all of this mess so far. And 1 more on top of that, and they could be singing the praises of a regulation victory. Maybe not so much, though, as Wichita have a great clutch energy, and I would not be surprised to see this at least send it to overtime if that's the route that Nemesis are going to take. Bales playing good on the zero, and I like the fact that more and more teams in SCS are starting to introduce the zero as kind of your alternative to a Nomad, and it makes perfect sense here. I think this is the switch that we needed for so long on Oregon that just never came. If you're looking at teams that play well with the zero, it's got to be Honor. Honor plays so just... It's hard to play against it in the way that they do because you can't do anything without it being immediately discovered. Bales takes crucial control of Astro here, but has to give it up, knowing that there are many deep angles still being fought by Wichita.
Yeah, you've got Morocco trying to fight another one. The player in bathroom, that's Joe holding this flank, and Morocco's about to walk into death. No way he wins that gunfight. An incredible shot from Morocco. Bales, though, will find the double kill and quickly neutralize that Jaeger force. Morocco, 9 kills on this one so far. You combine that with Twizzler's 14, and you've got quite a few. BO2 is going to find another kill, though. That's going to be onto Shu this time, and Wichita, they're going to throw away this last bit of man advantage here. Faded is going to walk up the Astro stairs, not able to do much, and TPA is going to be forced to clutch this one up. A 1v3, the plant going down. Not the best situation for the Goyo. He'll swing around into Trophy, not able to find the kill there, and he'll switch to Stats Race. Goes for the pre-fire on the planter, but Bales has the coverage, and Nemesis will take round 9.
Now we finally have that more competitive match where Nemesis can take rounds back and forth. Round number 10 is up next. Statue, Aviator, we've all had plenty of luck. Now we'll go to the first floor in Wichita's interpretation of the dining defense, where again, it looks like we're gonna be staring down the barrel of your top floor extension. This time, you've got the Mute, you've got the Mozzie, Vigil, all operators that make it difficult for Nemesis to get the intel working. But one thing that the Mozzie doesn't really help with is having the zero cams, which provide so much intel, so versatile to get them in position, and that really could be the ace up Nemesis's sleeve here, to finally be able to have good intelligence on the positions of Wichita to deny them the aim battle advantage that they held for so long on Oregon. It could be the great equalizing factor here if Wichita Wolves aren't careful where those Argus cameras are watching.
That was a pretty big round for Nemesis, I mean, that was... We talked about it as the possible momentum switch for Wichita, but again, another opportunity for Nemesis to just show that they have what it takes to attack this map. And already, we're seeing, it looks like an attacker-sided villain. Wichita took 4 on their attacking half, and Nemesis have already found two decisive rounds, I gotta say. Wichita have not been able to find defensive success, just like Nemesis struggled on their half, but in these last few rounds, Wichita has been trying to make these adjustments. We're seeing them change up their playstyle round after round. Maybe they're going for a more aggressive hold this time. Maybe they're just going to put a couple of roamers out there and not actually go for the extension in the next. And in round number 10, on this tertiary bomb site with so much vertical play essential to this round, it's very possible that this extension is not going to matter at all. Nemesis are working their way in. What looks like a horizontal take could be in order. You've got Box pressuring outside of Laundry. That's not uncommon for either take. But what's interesting here is you've got both Red, Bales, and Boji all pressuring from the southwest side, that living room and library side of this map, for a more horizontal push. Morocco is upstairs to hold this down, but nobody is walking upstairs on the attacking side. So this utility and this manpower allocated to the top floor is exactly what Nemesis are hoping to take advantage of. The danger, of course, is that now the vertical play can be used against you as an attacker, and they can shut down all of your entry points into this site. Thankfully for the Wichita Wolves, they are fully aware of where this push is coming from, and Shu is going to take Red down as a result. Box looking to respond, cooking a frag grenade and tossing it in, but the very vertical play I just mentioned is now Nemesis's problem. Joe and Bales, all that remains.
Whether the defense knows it or not, the ace has taken site control. It's immediately relinquished, though, as he's felt. And Wichita closed that one out, obliterating Nemesis's hopes for a horizontal take on this site and pushing their way now up to match point. I have to give Nemesis credit for attacking that in a more kind of atypical way. Horizontal takes definitely can work, but I feel like there just wasn't enough element of surprise there. The cat was out of the bag. Wichita's setup was versatile enough to instantly react, to use the vertical angles that you had mentioned to stop that attack from ever confidently progressing to the innards of the site and denying that one from having any real confidence. We'll see the first pause, timeout, however you want to call it, of the game used as Joe calls out for it. And maybe we won't see that. I'm not exactly sure what the ruling is, but that would be a good time to have it go down. Nemesis need to take a break here. They need to kind of stop and say, what are we going to do? How are we going to approach this? Now that Wichita is on match point, to all the viewers here, I remind you, it was Oregon in this very same position.
Yeah, this is the same scoreline that we've seen, and despite some early traction from the Wichita Wolves, they have slowed down a bit, but it really could close out here. It's 6-4, it's match point. Wichita poised to take this round right now, electing to do so on the trophy and statuary bomb site, so they know exactly where this is going to go down, but how is the question. The last time we saw one of these top floor bomb sites, there was the extension from Wichita Wolves that was immediately dealt with on the attacking side by Nemesis. And to win this one for Wichita, they just cannot lose those extended players so early on. It needs to come down to this, I guess, their ability to fall back onto the bomb site. Even if they are being pressured, you have to at some point come to the decision, do you want to just absolutely hold down Aviator with your life, or do you want to play your life instead? And already it does appear that Wichita are going to make the right decision here and start to rotate on back, just given that they're not feeling much pressure from Nemesis on that side. The very pressure is coming in from below. A little bit of vertical play now being utilized by Red and Bales accordingly, popping that Goyo shield and making that Astro hold even harder to actually get done.
Goyo Vulcan fire spreads, incinerating Astro as this round ticks further and further down. Neither team wanting to make the first move. For Wichita, who might lose their opportunity to get that 7-4, or for Nemesis, where the stakes are even higher. If Nemesis loses in this round, they get 0 points, which is not the way that I would want it to start this. Box gets the opener. That's a huge momentum booster. Now, as you've lost Twizzler, the star player, the one who we know can show up in the clutch moments, having already gotten an ace in this defensive split. Faded lurks below, hoping to catch up a member of Nemesis. They have one member down there, not quite close to the Astro position as of yet, and more lurking and waiting to make their move, and it might have actually happened that they slipped the coverage of Faded. In fact, that's exactly what's gone down. Red waits on the blue staircase, trying to contest against Morocco, who's looking to get an angle on his head, and it exactly will work out. Faded gets Bales now 4 versus 3 with 50 seconds to find their way back in. Joe still holds it down. Morocco goes away. Boji tries to get in from the concrete door, but 2 defenders are sitting here stalwart to try and deny this. Senpai Shu pushed out of position. Now as Astro control will fall, it's only 1 player left here. Faded, the last hope of Wichita to claim their 7-4, but Joe is down for the count in the diffuser. It needs to be recovered with 29 seconds. They're going to go for the res as Faded looks to push up, but he's being constantly monitored by Nemesis, who do not want to let him slip through their grasp. Faded pushes up, but he still has to worry about this trophy player, and the sledge swings wide. Box's SMG-11 will get the better of him. Nemesis put on another round.
Another back and forth round, but it came down to just Box and Boji just lighting up the scoreboard on just the full send into Statuary, into Trophy respectively, catching the Wichita Wolves off guard there just a little bit, and honestly, a pretty good job from them. So with that, we are going to take that time out now and see how this can be utilized from both of these teams, right? Wichita were not able to hold down trophy and statuary, and they can take the lessons they just learned over to their, now what appears to be their aviator and games decision. These two bomb sites, they play out quite similarly from time to time. They both have that very same extension that you can either choose to undertake or not. But this is something that we've seen from the Wichita Wolves all day. They really like to go for these extensions. And on Villa, the reason they haven't been able to secure as many defensive rounds as they would like, these extensions are simply not working as well. Two reasons. One, either they're just being cut down early by some great play from Nemesis, or Nemesis are realizing what they're dealing with, and they're just completely circumventing that, going straight for the bomb site instead.
So with the aviator site coming up, I have no doubt that this is going to be your same kind of statue extension. Last time we went here, I mean, Nemesis just blitzed their way through. Immediately, there was two key players who were central to trying to keep that close. In my recollection, I think it was Goyo, who played on a deep angle back inside of Trophy, and Jaeger, who was very aggressive close up at the wall. The thing was, Nemesis just didn't lose. They won both of those fights, and immediately, for all the reinforcements, for all the utility, castle barricades, it was just capitulated, and it didn't matter. So maybe there needs to be a call for Nemesis, or for Wichita Wolves, pardon, to ignore it, and to play a little bit more kind of reserved. Don't extend so much, because I think Nemesis have two great options. We already know that they can win their battle if it's a full extension, or they can just ignore it and just go in wherever they may please. So maybe for Wichita, the decision to make here is to keep all of these elements of a extension, but not so much on the far out fringe, more centralized close to home.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I mean, there are literally just so many variations you can bring to a Villa defense, right? I mean, you wouldn't call it an extension necessarily, but you don't need to have a shield facing 90 Hall from the game's door. You don't need to have that shield on the top of main stairs and bring those Vulcans in that situation. There are so many elements that maybe you call an extension, maybe you don't, but like we have seen all night long from both of these teams. And I do think, like you mentioned, that could be a little bit more of a success here for Wichita Wolves if they can find that, that clean balance between the two. But the fact that we're seeing the castle, right? The fact that we're seeing the mute again, it does seem that they're going for a similar hold. You've got the castle. There's one barricade utilized on that boar window and rotating over to this master side. So it seems that Wichita is going for this extension and hoping that they can win things out right here. Our last round of regulation, to remind everybody the stakes of this: if Wichita Wolves get this win, they will walk away from this map with the full 3 points and the series 6 total points. But Nemesis, if they can get this round win and force overtime, at the bare minimum, Nemesis will get that 1 point with the opportunity of getting 2 if they can end up securing that infinite overtime win.
Still a lot left up on the table here, and for Nemesis, they've made a phenomenal comeback effort. With the timeout dropped now, they have probably the best opportunity and the most important round. Getting this one here and now denies Wichita the position to be at the top rung of the leaderboard, and 2 more rounds after that, if Nemesis can make it happen, they're going to walk away with at least the knowledge that they fought their hardest and they got what was left out of their opponent's map pick. Twizzler isn't so active over by the extension side of things. I think that's likely going to be TPA and Morocco again, unless they decide that it's time to give it up, because Nemesis are not going to attack the extension. Nobody's over by the northeast side. Instead, we have 5 members down on the first floor or nearby in conjunction. Senpai Shu holding on the main stairs, he's going to be a big factor because he's got the SMG-11, not the most overwhelming weapon when you have to swing out and challenge an attacker like Red, who has the R4C, 31 bullets to rip right through you, and for Box, who could toss a nade, as he will do exactly that. The pin is pulled and Shu will hear it. He walks up the staircase but moves back down. He's caught by Red, who moved faster than Shu might have anticipated. Nemesis in the lead.
Yeah, they've now got this main side control. Faded is still attempting to contest that. A couple of swings out from this game's door, but nothing in the way of success is found just yet for Wichita. Definitely on the back foot here, and with that Vulcan shield popped, each element of time delay that the Wolves formerly had working for them are starting to disappear. You've got no more C4s in pocket. You've only got those 3 toxic babes to work with. And on the side of Nemesis, well, they've got ample utility, smoke grenades still in pocket, the Zofia concussions, and the Atch breaching rounds, all to make this execute happen. Once again, though, you have TPA playing a bit of an extension over towards this trophy side. Not going to get the right timing, though, on the swing, and it's Boji who's allowed to rappel on into 90 and now take control of that. But the Wolves here, they're still locking down this bomb site, and Nemesis have yet to make much pressure actually happen here. There's no gun vault side pressure. It's all from the study side, and Morocco just goes for the swing. That's going to be Joe, and the diffuser now dropped, but Boji has an answer, cutting down TPA. Bales gets another. There goes Morocco. Faded has a response. Faded has 2 responses, a double kill onto both Boji and Box. Faded now a triple. Bales finally answers onto 1, but now it's a 1v1. Faded could go for the 4K and get the win right here, and with no time remaining, there is nothing that Nemesis can do. Wichita Wolves, they will take round 12 and take the series the full 6 points delivered.
I'm just in awe. Wichita, I think that was a 2 versus 4 in the final moments there, and they just, it seemed like Nemesis just fell away. There was not enough time to get the execute going, and the footholes open in that wall. The 2 players stacking up from the Nemesis offense caused such a traffic jam that Nemesis could not overcome. A 7-5 is here, the full foray of 6 points for the Wolves on their match. A dominant performance, very smart in their own play on Oregon, and more of a back and forth nail biter on Villa, but for their map pick, they do pull it out.
Wow, I mean, an incredible finish, and we saw our scoreboard there. I mean, 3 players on Wichita Wolves dropping double digits. Just some really incredible individual play, and it really feels like that is what Villa came down to. And as we're seeing it again, I mean, a couple of just incredible stuff from both of these teams. But at the end of the day, if you're going to compare simply whose individual guns shined a bit brighter, definitely the Wichita Wolves is who you're going to turn for that. Both of these teams, they brought some creative setups to the overall approach, but at the end of the day, the antics, when they came out, it was all about who is going to fry you first. Is it going to be Red? Is it going to be TPA just walking into a bomb site? How are these 2 teams going to, dance back and forth in this one? And at the end of the day, each skirmish, they all ended up going blue. And Wichita Wolves getting the full 6 points in this series. Making quite a statement here. The only other team that do that so far has been Honor. Obviously, the 2 series not quite equivalent in the, I'd say, progression and the competitiveness of them, but definitely something to say. 6 points is a great way to start the season.
Yeah, you move forward into the next week knowing that you have this safety net of your impressive performance against Nemesis to back yourselves up with. And for Nemesis, Oregon was kind of a bleak one, but they came back and they had some real fire on Villa, and I have to give them credit for making that one more back and forth, where it looked like rounds might go differently than what our expectations were. Immediately shaping up on the first half, Wichita had a 4-round lead, storming their way onto the offenses, but as we hit that side switch, something came about Nemesis, a different energy that wasn't present on Oregon, and something that carried them so close to the finish line. In the weeks ahead of us, I'm watching Nemesis. I still have faith in them as a team that, with their progression, with a little bit of practice and hard work, mixed in with a little bit of elbow grease, they might be able to be a top competitor.
I think they definitely can. I mean, this series, it was back and forth. Nemesis had their moments of glory where they really just looked clean. But Wichita Wolves, they also just had really good moments as well. Oregon, I think had a bit more of these moments for both teams. Wichita Wolves, they have their really passive strategy. They have their really methodical clears. And I think that's something that when we turn to Villa and when we turn to this frag-heavy map, or not a frag-heavy map, but one that turned into a frag fest, I think, well, it is pretty clear the outcome. With our stats now pulled up, what we talked about, the entry being such a factor, you can see that Wichita definitely won out that category just a bit. Red, of course, having those 3 entry picks, but on the side of Wichita Wolves, you had both Twizzler, Shu, and TPA all winning out their entry game. Those early frags just seem to be just really big for this team.
And if we're picking anyone to be our MVP, I've got to put my money on Twizzler. Twizzler was dropping double digits both games. He was making huge plays. Not only the ace we saw on Villa to lock down that control of the hunting vault, but also when you step back to Oregon, when he crept up the rear stage stairs and obliterated Nemesis's beginnings of the assault in that round. Twizzler knew just exactly how to rip Nemesis apart, and I mean, his rating, it's got to be a real crazy one. I'm curious to see what they will be averaged out to, because he was just on top of his game. 14-6, quite the KD.
Not getting 100 costs this time, though, so unfortunate to see there, but Morocco coming out with 83% cost. Again, pretty solid stuff there. And, you know, the ratings overall definitely shows the victor team, and that they definitely deserved that win. It really did seem that we saw a little bit of everything in this series, Sikula. We saw on Oregon a lot of just disciplined clears, a lot of pretty methodical takes, and a little bit of that utility consumption flavor that we, don't love to see, but don't mind to see it now and again. And when we turn to Villa, I was expecting to see a very similar outcome, honestly. I was thinking that, you know what, it's Villa, it's even more strat heavy than Oregon. Maybe this could be even more leaning into the Wamai, the Goyo, the Jaeger meta, and all that kind of thing. But we actually didn't see that. When I say we saw a little bit of everything, I mean, I really mean it when it came to Villa. We saw Ash mains being Ash mains, walking into the bomb site at the beginning of the round. We saw full teams going pretty aggressive and going for some all-out rushes, and then you mix in a little bit of ranked flavor in there, and you really get the 7-5 result that we have in front of us.
Another player that I definitely have to highlight, Twizzler, we know how he played, plus 16, but faded. A 1.28 rating, good on the frags, constantly getting kills, keeping himself out of the line of fire and playing his role, plus 3 plants. The objective play was something that we didn't totally see highlighted, and I think if you look at plants, and then you look at plant attempts in rounds where Faded tried to plant, but Wichita, they just won the round before he could successfully get it down. I think that would tell you a lot about the consistency and the coordination that Wichita played with. Faded was constantly leveraging that diffuser, especially on Oregon. He was forcing Nemesis to make the reaction and to walk into the crossfires that his team, the rest of his teammates, they had equipped themselves with. To play your role as a support player, to get the diffuser down. You take all of that and you combine it with the fact that he was still getting frags and he wasn't just getting obliterated when he wasn't playing the objective. I think that's really a hallmark of a strong and talented player.
I definitely agree. And even though Nemesis, they were not the victors, I think it is worth, taking a look at this team as well. And specifically Joe, because compare Joe to Faded. Joe is the IGL and was playing that pretty hard support role, both the ace and the smoke all day long. But in terms of the entry, actually found himself the victim of 2 early entry picks. And, 2 plants is still respectable. But just, you compare the cost and you compare their just overall ability to just light up that scoreboard early on, or I guess not light up the scoreboard, but step up when they needed to, and Faded definitely wins that out. But Joe definitely made their impact felt, especially when Nemesis really came out with a little bit more objective focus in those last few rounds compared to Wichita's defenses and Wichita's attacks, Nemesis actually did go for that plant and get it down twice, whereas Wichita never had the opportunity to actually get the diffuser on the ground. Of course, it, like you highlighted, Stickula, it didn't really matter because they found the kills before then, but it all really just comes down to that mentality shift that I think occurred in that second half of Villa, and that nearly allowed the comeback to actually come through for Nemesis.
Really fun series overall. I can hope for overtime. We don't always get it, and I was glad that Ferme brought up the predictions because I was going to ask for that. I was wrong. You were right, Jay-Z. I'll give it to you. Wichita, they're a strong roster, and I think Nemesis, they have a good beginning, strong foundation, as I mentioned in the run-up to the match. They still have some work to get done. Keeping control of those flanks and establishing their map pool and knowing when it's time to play aggressive and when it might be necessary to stall out, to slow things down, and to run a little bit more coordinated. Given the previous experience of their roster, I think there's a lot of progress that they can get done. But that's the end of the road for our first match. We've got the second game coming up, the final of week number 6, Vale versus Project Neo ahead of us. But before that, we'll be taking a break. Jay-Z will be saying goodbye. Fun cast. Always great to have you here with us. But with that being said, we'll see you in just a little bit.